I'd like to welcome everyone to this regular council meeting of the Township of Puslinch on January 22nd, 2020. We'll start with disclosure of pecuniary interest.
I would like to declare pecuniary interest on item 7.4 and 7.5, which are CBM Lake Pit Proposal and CBM Landscape Pit Expansion, as well as closed item E, as well as item 9.7B, which is the meeting with the University, Mayor's Update meeting with the University of Guelph. And the nature of the pecuniary interest is that I have a family member who owns a aggregate operation in the township, and it could be perceived as a pecuniary interest. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Goyda, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. The councillor receives a confidential. Did she just declare a portion of this as pecuniary interest? Can I get a different mover on that, please? Sorry, Jessica.
Okay.
Just want to keep it clean.
Did Sarah need to declare too? Okay.
All right. Thanks. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Spoulos. The council receives the F confidential verbal report by Mary Hassan, Director of Finance Treasurer, regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, labor relations, or employee negotiations, 2019 compensation update. G, confidential report, PW 2020 dash, is this the wrong one? I'm kidding. Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought everybody was staring at me weird. 2020-001 Lake Avenue by Lynn Banks, Development Legislative Coordinator, regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board. H, confidential verbal report from Sue Dason, Dason Law Office Professional Corporation, regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality or local board, Lake Avenue. I, adoption and receipt of confidential minutes of the previous meetings, January 2nd, 2020 closed council meeting, January 7th, 2020 closed council meeting, and J, confidential verbal report from Mayor Sealy regarding personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. All in favor? Carried. All right, and we'll just do the minutes real quick. Moved by Councillor Spoulos, seconded by Councillor Goyda, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as written and distributed. A, January 2nd, 2020 regular council meeting minutes. B, January 7th, 2020 budget meeting minutes. And C, January 16th, 2020 proposed 2020 budget and public information meeting minutes. Any questions or anything on that? All in favor? Carried. All right, council, if everyone's okay with it, we're going to ask that our bylaw officer, Blair, we're going to move his presentation up in the agenda just so that he can get home to his young family, if that's acceptable with everyone.
Yes.
Sorry to center you out.
No, that's okay. Appreciate it.
So the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Okay, so we're just presenting today another draft of the property standards bylaw. So back in November 20th, 2019, we had proposed a draft property standards bylaw for council to review, and then heard feedback on that. So based on some of that feedback, we've made some more changes to the bylaw, and I'll just go over some of the changes. So we've added some definitions. So we've added the definition of yard, naturalized area, residential rental property, rental unit, tenant, landlord, heritage attribute, and heritage property. And the main thing we've done in this new one is we've created supplementary standards for residential rental properties, and then incorporated a large amount of the sections into this to deal with, pretty much anything to deal with the interior of the property is now under this section. So anything under this, the supplementary standards for residential rental properties, it only applies to rental properties. So we pretty much just relocated a bunch of these sections into that. So do you want me to go through the sections? No?
I think council will be prepared to ask questions.
Yeah, okay. So that's kind of the biggest change we've done in this. And then we want to come back with a final revised bylaw for you guys. That will include a couple other changes that you haven't seen there, just some housekeeping things as well. In 4.1, subsection C, it's going to say in the new one, excessive growth of weeds and grass that are exceeding 12 inches in height except in a naturalized area. So that's where we're linking that part in. just to exempt it from you having to, you know, mow or maintain naturalized areas like that. So, and then section 14.4, health and waste, we're changing there's a timeline of 10 days. We're taking that out, so there's not going to be a timeline for that. It's just going to be in accordance with the county who picks up waste. And that's, yeah, pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you. I think you've done a fantastic job on this. Councillor Spoulos.
Yes, I thought that you did a very good job. Apart from the minor typos which you guys are correcting, I found it very good. I liked the fact that you took out the issues associated with interior and put it in the tenancy piece. That was very well done.
Councillor Bailey.
No, I think I just have a question for staff later, so that's okay.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation, and I really like the direction this is starting to go, and I think it's great. It reflects the change in provincial legislation regarding the Residential Tenancy Act and the change for us that we must do these rental standards as opposed to may do, and I think this really addresses that issue, and I'm glad to hear we're going to make good use of that definition of naturalized areas for grasses and weeds and things like forests and we want to make sure the moraine can remain a moraine and rolling and have ponding water and all those things which are natural processes. I don't think the intent was ever to outlaw nature, and having that new definition certainly goes a long way if we apply it throughout the bylaw where appropriate. So thank you very much. I look forward to the next draft.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Goyda.
Thanks. Yeah, I just want to reiterate sort of what I had said at the last time this had come in front of council, is that I know that there has been a significant amount of really good work that's gone into bringing this bylaw up to date, and I'm very happy and very appreciative that you've put so much effort into taking the comments that were presented both at the public meeting and I know at our last council meeting, we threw quite a list of things at you. So, and I think you've done a really good job of incorporating all of those things to address all those concerns. I was particularly glad to see the supplementary standards for the rental properties rather than those standards being incorporated to all properties as a whole. And as Councillor Bulmer said, I was also really happy to see the introduction of some of the definitions, particularly the naturalized area and the yard part. So again, thank you for rising to the challenge, and I think that we are going to have a very clear and comprehensive bylaw when this is all done, and I know you've put a lot of work into it, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Councillor Bailey, did you want to ask staff your question now, or is it a question for staff after?
Yeah. No.
Okay. All right. So, unless there's some further questioning? Okay, well, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Bulmer, that report ADM 2020-001 regarding the proposed property standards bylaw be received and that staff bring back the draft bylaw for further review at future council meeting. All in favor? Carried. Okay, any business arising of the previous minutes? No. Nothing? All right, we have a public meeting. Is there, so public meeting, zoning bylaw amendment D14/Day, Andrew and Ann Day, part lot 26, concession Gore, 717, concession 1, and 4071 Side Road 25 South. Note, this public information meeting will be held on February 19th, 2020 at 6:30 p.m. at the Municipal Complex, 7404 Wellington Road 34. All right, we'll move on to communications. So, first one is from the City of Cambridge. Any questions or comments on that one? I just got to scroll back up. Okay. How about the notifications from CBM aggregates regarding Ontario Resource? Any questions or comments on that? Nope. Correspondence with respect to the 2018-2019 Chief Drinking Water. Any questions or comments on that one? Nope. Okay, 7.4, correspondence from CBM area aggregates regarding a request to meet with the township's hydrogeologist.
Yes, I have a motion with respect to that. This is a following up from the December 18th meeting. We basically did not commit to any action at that time. The wording in that we approved at that committee was that if the township's hydrologist or other consultant is authorized to participate. So I'd like to read my motion and in that regard and indicate words that I don't think that we should be participating.
Absolutely.
Because of a potential conflict of interest. So, okay. So it's moved by myself and seconded by Sarah Bailey. That council receives item 7.4 correspondence from CBM Aggregates regarding a request to meet with the township's hydrogeologist and ecologist with respect to CBM Lake Pit proposal dated January 6, 2020. And whereas the Township of Puslinch has a role and responsibility for application review, and whereas the Township role does not include assistance with the preparation of applications, and whereas it is essential that there can be no perception of a conflict of interest, be it resolved that the Township of Puslinch will not permit Township consultants to assist CBM on behalf of the Township in the preparation of their application. Be it further resolved that the Township will provide to CBM a list of issues and factors suggested to CBM to be addressed in the application that would be considered during the Township's review of the CBM application. And the second part is, whereas the Township of Puslinch does not wish to incur any cost resulting from the review of the completed CBM application, be it be resolved that prior to the Township or its consultant's review of the completed application, CBM commits to paying all reasonable staff and consultant costs related to review of the CBM application. So that's my motion, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important that we be perceived as being above board, and it's also, I think it's important that our residents are not faced with the costs indirectly for the review of this and other such applications.
Okay. Councillor Bailey, I know you seconded, but you can speak to your motion.
No, I think Councillor Tsipras has put a lot of thought into that, and I can follow where that's going. So I have no comment.
Okay. Councillor Bulmer? No, excuse me, no, sorry. Councillor Bulmer?
Thank you. Yeah, I support the direction of this motion entirely. I have a question about the one piece at the end about costs associated with the application. Is there not an application fee that's designed to deal with those costs associated with the application, or are you intending to speak to costs, peer reviewing, and in future if something's approved? I just wonder, could you clarify that for me, please?
Councillor, can you clarify it first, and then I'll let the director.
Well, I think I'd like the director speak because I originally I was concerned about the fees, and I was not aware of any fees, and I asked for clarification, and I said if we are being paid, if there is a process for payment, then that part of the motion is redundant, but the motion stayed, so I assume that we need clarification on that.
Okay. Director of Finance.
So for zoning bylaw amendments associated with gravel pit applications, there is an application fee, but they also get invoiced for any third-party review costs incurred by the township from our consultants.
So it's covered.
So it is covered.
Okay. So in accordance with township policy. So whether it's redundant or not, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt. I just want to make sure we're covered. I really want to be clear to our constituents that this is the direction.
Understood. I just want to make sure it wasn't something new that we were introducing.
No. I just want to be clear. And to Councillor Bailey's comment, I did have help with the wording. Was up to AO.
Okay. I agree with your motion. I believe that the burden shouldn't be placed on our constituents, and I think the optics of allowing or even requesting our hydrogeologist to engage in a pre consultation would not go favorably for the corporation. So, any other further comments? We'll call to vote. No, all in favor? Carried. Okay, our next one is still number 5 is correspondence from David Henratty, CBM, with respect to CBM Lancy Pit. Any questions or comments on that one? No? Okay. Number 6, report from Charles Hamilton, Wellington County Fire Officer, regarding their training. Who that is? Any questions or comments? Okay. Notifications from Canada's Museum of Science and Innovation regarding 2 traveling exhibitions. questions or comments?
I was just wondering if this could be, I'm not sure if it needs to be forwarded to the Recreation Committee or if it can simply just be included in the monthly community newsletter that gets posted on our website on a monthly basis, just to bring some awareness to it.
And I think it's important for them to realize it's by donation only, because it's not a special fee. That was my concern. It was going to be a $20 hit per person to see this, and be no uptake on this. But certainly, it seems like to be a very interesting exhibit.
Okay. All right. And the last one is the correspondence from Lake Erie Region Source Protection. Any questions or comments? Yeah.
I'm a member of Lake Erie Source Protection Committee, and when this report came through, there was a lot of work done, and it was unanimously endorsed by the committee that we seek the municipalities in the area to have this endorsed for furtherance by the province. So I would think that the committee would be interested in receiving endorsement from the committee from council of this report.
Okay, so do you want to pass a motion that we do the endorsement? Or?
Sure, yes. I'd like to move a motion that council endorses the correspondence provided by the Lake Erie Source Protection Committee and supports the actions to address over-application of winter maintenance chemicals report sources of municipal drinking water.
Okay, capture that. Okay, seconder? Okay, Councillor Bailey. Any discussion on that? Councillor Bailey? Councillor Bomer?
No, it's all good. I must admit, I'm glad when I read the report, the changing in the language around winter maintenance chemicals, and because there are a number of different things that can be used. I was surprised in the report when they even identified, calcium chloride as it's a salt, and it could be used as a winter maintenance chemical. But if you want to see your car rust out even faster, imagine if we were putting calcium chloride on the roads instead of just rock salt or magnesium chloride. So it was an excellent report. So and I appreciate the time that Councillor Spoulos spends on this committee and on our behalf. So yeah, fully support it.
Councillor Goda?
Yeah, I think the recommendations in this report touch on both steps to address liability as well as the standards for the chemical application to help preserve the natural resources. And given that Puslinch is home to some fairly sensitive features like the Mill Creek, as well as being completely dependent on groundwater for our drinking water, I think that we should wholeheartedly be supporting this this motion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. All in favor? Carrie, you have it sitting there. Where'd it go? Oh, yeah. Should catch it. Okay, on to IG. So the first one is the AMO watch file.
The January 16th one, or?
This one is January 9th, 2020.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions or comments on that one? No. Next one is the January 15th, I believe. Is that the one you're after, Councillor?
I think mine was 16th that I had a note on.
15th is OPP.
Yep, that's the OPP, the composition of the OPP detachment boards. So no questions or comments. Now it's January 16th one. I assume you have a question, Councillor Bomer?
Well, yes, I had a question for our CAO. In this one talks about the frequency foundry 311 citizen engagement system. Is this similar to the system that you're familiar with, or is this something different?
I'm not familiar with this one, sorry.
Okay. It just mentions here that AMO has we can get bulk discounts or bulk pricing using this system, so never heard of this one before, so didn't know if it's something we should look into, or?
Sure, we can get some more information for you, for sure, yeah.
Super, thanks. Because you've said good things about these kind of systems. Thank you.
Next one is federal carbon pricing. Any questions or comments on that one? No? And then the Ontario Provincial Police Municipal Policing Bureau News Bulletin. Any questions or comments? No? And the town of Tecumseh resolution for 911 mistiles. Any questions or comments on that one? Okay. Thanks. Moved by Counselor Goida, seconded by Counselor Spillis, that the intergovernmental affairs correspondence items listed on the council agenda for January 22nd, 2020 council meeting be received. All in favor? Reports. Oops, this went too far. Give me a second. And so this is our report from the Director of Finance on our 2020 proposed budget. I believe the Director is just going to point out some highlights, and you can have the mic.
Okay. So we had a few budget meetings, September, October, and January. And so this report just provides updates to council on the operating capital budget changes that occurred as a result of the meetings, as a result of the January 7th meeting. And this was the same information that was presented at the public meeting on January 16th. So the result, the reporting includes what the impact is on the different types of property classes, including residential, commercial, industrial, and farmland. And we also have a budget media release should council approve the report and the budget bylaw, which is also incorporated in this agenda package. So I can quickly just summarize what the impact is for the median residential assessment. And so it's a 3.72% tax increase, or approximately $36.90 annual increase. And an increase per $100,000 of assessment value of $6.07 annually. The blended impact is 1.52%, or $85.26 annually, and a blended tax increase per $100,000 of assessment value of approximately $14.02 for the median typical single-family home.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Director, Councillor Spillis?
No, I don't have any questions, just appreciate the work that staff have put together, getting this through so in a timely basis.
Yeah. Councillor Bailey?
No, I as well recognize a lot of work went into this, so thank you.
Councillor Bulmer?
No, all good. Thank you very much for the work of existing and new staff put into making this happen. Thank you.
Councillor?
Yes, I reiterate everything that everyone has said.
I truly thank staff and I thank council. I'm really proud of this budget. We've left some important infrastructure projects to be partially funded, fully funded, to be saved up for. You know, I think we're providing a budget that's reasonable to our constituents, and you know, I'm really proud of everyone sitting at this table and in this office. It's going very well. So thank you for all your hard work. I have a media release to read, and it's just going to basically state most of what the Director has already stated, but I'll read it here now. Puslinch, the Council of the Township of Puslinch approved its 2020 operating capital budget with a 3.72 tax increase. For the typical Puslinch residents of $608,000, the increase represents $36.90 annual increase. The increase per $100,000 of assessment value is approximately $6.07 annually. Taking into account the County of Wellington's 2020 proposed budget and the 2020 education rate, the blended tax impact for the typical Puslinch residents of $608,000 is 1.52%, or $85.26 annually. The blended tax increase per $100,000 of assessment value is approximately $14.02 annually. So again, very proud of that budget, and we'll provide a copy of this release to Mike. All right. Moved by Councillor Spillis, seconded by Councillor Goida, that report Finance 2020-008 regarding the 2020 budget final be received, and the council enact a bylaw to adopt the budget for the Corporation of the Township of Puslinch for the year 2020. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Remuneration bylaw. Are you going to speak of that as well, Director of Finance?
Yes, so I'll just do a quick summary on the remuneration bylaw. So a thorough compensation review was conducted by ML Consulting to ensure that salary levels for township positions remain competitive with the external market, that internal equity has been maintained, and that pay equity maintenance obligations as per the Pay Equity Act are met. As part of the budget process, a cost of living adjustment of 1.90% effective January 1st, 2020 was approved. And so the remuneration bylaw that's before you has some changes that need to be incorporated, and some of those changes include the changes to compensation and vacation entitlement based on ML Consulting's review of the township. The changes to the Employment Standards Act as a result of Ontario Bill 148 and Ontario Bill 47, and the township's obligation to provide OMERS voluntary enrollment requirements for employees classified as other than continuous full-time employees who meet the eligibility requirements. So the impacts of the 1.9% COLA and the compensation review completed by ML Consulting have been incorporated in the 2020 budget.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Spools?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Bailey? Councillor Bomer?
Appreciate the hard work again that went into all that, so thank you.
Councillor Goyda? Okay. Moved by Councillor Goyda, seconded by Councillor Spools, that report finance 2020-009 regarding the remuneration bylaw be received. The council enact a bylaw to establish the rates for remuneration to staff and repeal bylaw number 008-2017 and bylaw number 21-1966. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Overtime and, so the next report is the overtime and lieu policy. Who wants to discuss that one? CAO?
Yeah, I'll speak to this one. A few edits were circulated to council that we proposed in here. I'll just reference those, and then one additional one that we've added since the communication went out to you. Under Section 2A, basically what it does is it talks there about an on-call for public works employees, and then it says it's at the discretion of the director of public works. What we're recommending there is sometimes throughout time, titles of positions may change. So what we normally do is just say of the department head. And then what we want to do as well is just say department head or designate, because at sometimes the department head might not be working, it might be a foreman or supervisor acting in their stead on weekends or whatever. So just to give that proper authority, we're recommending that director of public works be department head or designate. It achieves the same thing but gives a little bit more flexibility. And then in the information that we previously circulated to you, just clarifying about how overtime work has to be pre-approved and under what circumstances people can take some initiative, and so but there's still some control measures in place as well. But we circulated that to you already, so that wording will be incorporated.
Any questions for the CAO? Councillor Spools?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Bailey?
Nope, I liked the wording that was in that change. Yeah.
Councillor Palmer?
It's good, thank you very much.
Councillor Goyda? I'm good as well. Next. So now we have the GRs. Oh, we got to read the resolutions. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Balmer, that report finance 2020-010 regarding overtime and lieu policy amendments be received, and the council adopt the amendments to the overtime and lieu policy attached to Schedule A to report finance 2020-010 as amended. All in favor? Carried. Okay, the next one is the GRCA well decommissioning. Who wants to talk about that one? Does anybody have any information other than what was provided in the council package?
No, I just want to endorse what staff are proposing here, and it's important to ensure that the lake levels are properly monitored in case we can point the finger at whoever's drawing too much water.
Councillor Bailey?
No, I don't have any questions.
Okay, Councillor Bomer?
No, it's all good.
Councillor Goyda? No. Okay. No, anything? All in favor? Carried. Okay, building department. Since it's not here, we'll just, anybody have any questions or comments on the building department? I'll read the motion first. Moved by Councillor Balmer, seconded by Councillor Bailey. The report building 2020-001 with respect to the building department monthly update, December 2019, be received for information. Any questions or comments on that? No? All in favor? Carried. Okay. All right. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Balmer, that staff report Rec 2020-001 regarding the Aberfoyle Public School Sledge Hockey Program be received. Any questions or comments to our Manager of Public Works? Councillor Balmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is an interesting request. I fully support it. But I have a question. There was a group earlier this year that was raising money across the county to take a traveling sledge hockey program to the schools to help kids understand what it's like. Is this that program that's coming? Do you know?
Yes, it is.
Wow, it's great to see something that, you see starting actually come to fruition in less than about a year or two. It's nice to see a program get off the ground like this. So thank you very much, members of the Rec Committee and Director of Public Works, or Manager of Public Works, sorry, for bringing it to our attention. So great, support it all the way.
Anyone else? I think it's great. It's good to make more use of the MRF. That's excellent. Sorry?
I want to try it.
I don't know if the sledge can hold me. All right, all in favor? Carried. Okay. All right, so I think let me just catch up with my reports. Boom, I think we're on to mayor's updates. It almost seems like an eternity ago. It was last Wednesday, so, but with the Roma conference and everything going on. But the CEO and I went down. We met with Mr. Speaker in his office and with some senior MTO staff, and we had some conversations about the Highway 6 bypass. And it's a bit of the same ask. It's just, it's very important to our community. But they gave us some really pertinent information that the archaeological work had been paused due to some negotiations that had to take place, but that's scheduled to start again in the spring. That they're still working gradually towards being ready for the announcement that it's going to be approved. So that was excellent, and I did pitch to them the economic benefit if they go ahead with the highway, and they were listening. We had 2 or 3 people on conference call and 4 people in front of us. And then we talked a little bit about the Halton Truck Inspection Station, which we did also at Roma, but I'll talk more about that in the municipal announcements. Do you want to talk a little more specifics about our meeting?
I think what's important to note is what they did say, in that they're still having the work that's ongoing. It's not as if they put everything on hold. They're still expending funds. They're still working on their studies. They're still doing field work, still acquiring property. That's all positive. And what's also positive in my mind is what they didn't say. They didn't say that, no, we have to put this on hold and we have to wait till further decisions from above. There's nothing like that. It was all, we want to be ready for the decision. So that was quite positive.
So in your notes, which covered the conversation quite well, when they said 6 to 8 months after procurement, I thought they said 16 to 18 months. But maybe, anyways, that was
That's what my notes said, but
yeah,
I might have written that
I didn't
down.
take notes. You were doing it. So initially, I felt that if they got the go, it was going to be, if in my mind, 16 to 8 months. With that time component, it was going to be 2 years, 3 years before the project even got a shovel in the ground. But I hope I misheard it in 6 to 8. So, and then, as you know, they released the Southwestern Highway Plan for Ontario, and the Highway 6 bypass was listed in that. And I think now our next stage will be trying to advocate through that plan to get this program done and just keep the pressure on gently. And I was so thrilled to see that in that plan. And if it wasn't, we were in a whole lot of trouble. But with the meeting with the Mr. Speaker and that plan being released, I think we're in a good spot. We'll just keep trying to promote the highway bypass and show the benefits to the community and to the province as a whole. And hopefully we can get it done. What was my other one? And then the other thing I wanted to ask council's, actually, I'll open that part up to questions for that meeting with Mr. Speaker, if anybody has anything.
Good, thank you.
The notes were pretty thorough from our CAO, so. It was very rewarding, was it not? I thought it was, so.
He was very, very supportive of the project and understands it very, very well.
So the last part of my mayor's update is I want to ask for council's blessing to, she just can't participate. So I want to ask for council's blessing to have the CAO and myself reach out to some institutions and corporations that own significant land in the township, that some are using it as an aggregate production facility, and just ask if they have future plans for Puslinch and some could be employment land, so it's just to have those initial discussions that then the CEO and myself could report back to council on. So just looking for some direction from council that that's okay that we do that. So, Councillor Spoulos.
Yeah, no, I'm fully endorse your approach. It's important to understand who's doing what type of thing so we can plan for the future, and planning for the future is important. The residential build-out is going to dry out very soon, and we have to start looking to the commercial industrial area to pick up the slack in terms of providing additional revenue for us.
Okay. Councillor Bailey.
I'm just curious if you how many properties you have in mind to
I know two.
inquire about.
Two for sure. And one of them was, we mentioned it at the Roma delegation, and Ian Kerr, Director of Municipal Affairs West, he asked about the aggregate resources in it, and I didn't have an answer for him. So that's, that's where we can start the conversations and see what the intentions are. So, and through this process, I might be able to discover more. So. Councillor Bowman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, notwithstanding that the University of Guelph is singled out on the agenda.
Yeah, that was my mistake.
I think this is an excellent start, and I think they're used to being singled out. If you ever attend any public meetings or workshops in the city of Guelph, the University of Guelph often is, gets either special treatment or an extra seat at the table or something because of their significant holdings and interest in the city. And I think they play an equally big role here in our municipality. They are a significant landowner, whether it's the Arco Research Station or the Mill Creek Pit, or other potential lands they might own in the township. And this is particularly important as we enter into this comprehensive review of the county official plan, which is also our official plan. And so that's why I'm glad to hear that you are talking about reaching out to other landowners. And as part of those, I would hope that you would encourage them to participate in that comprehensive review of the official plan, because that's where we establish our vision for this community in the future. And if they have something they'd like to see at a particular place, this is the time to get it in and in the public process and get public feedback on it. So I don't know who the other large landowners might be, but I certainly agree with Councillor Spoulos' comments about starting to vision ourselves for the post-Highway 6 era, trying to find some other employment land opportunities where they might be. Through this process, we may find out that there are other employment land opportunities that might come to light. So I think it's always good to talk to people. It's you can never do any harm by reaching out and talking and learning more about each other. So I would support this suggestion.
Okay, so that's great. I look forward to that. It was, the other one was that I'm aware of right currently is Hydro One,
right?
Generating component of Hydro One. So I'd like to start the dialogue, and and we can go down that road. All right. So here's updates. Any notices of motion? Nope. Okay. Committee minutes. Moved by Councillor Balmer, seconded by Councillor Bailey, that the minutes of the following meetings be adopted as written and distributed. A, December 10th, 2019 Committee of Adjustment meeting minutes. B, December 10th, 2019 Planning and Development Advisory Committee minutes. All in favor? Any questions? Yep. All in favor? Sorry. Yep. I forgot to ask if you had any comments on it first. Municipal announcements. So, can I go first?
Sure, if you like. You're the boss.
Exactly.
Well, we all know that we had Roma. Went very well. We had our 4 delegations. Started out with MTO. And from the MTO, again, we didn't talk a lot about the Highway 6 bypass, but because we had that meeting on the Wednesday. However, we were discussing the Halton Truck Inspection Station, and they've committed to meeting with us, staff and us, to look at our proposal to see if we can incorporate that inspection station in Morrison under the hydro wires on lands that's locked, doesn't have access anywhere. So at least they're willing to come and talk to us. The MNRF went really well, I felt. When we were leaving the meeting, the gentleman in charge of pit rehabilitation he came over to me directly and said, I want your card, I want to talk to you, you had some interesting ideas, or us as a council had some interesting ideas. So that's where I see the value in Roma. I see a lot of value in Roma, but it's, you have 15 minutes, and if you can get a meeting after that 15 minutes, then you just keep working with that. So, and then again, we went to the Ministry of Heritage, Sport, Culture, and we just talked to them about the importance of those 2 grant applications that we submitted. We mentioned that we have limited funds. We work off 17% of the budget, and that this is a good infrastructure investment in Puslinch, because we're kind of drawing in baseball and soccer from other member municipalities around us, or not members, part of the city of Guelph. And then Mr. Arnott, he spoke of how it would be a great investment provincially because of the length of term that this infrastructure would be in place, and he just did an awesome job just explaining how it would be a beneficial investment for the province. So again, we're very lucky to have the support of the speaker at all of our delegations. And so I'll turn it over to Councillor Sapoulis for his comments.
Sure, yeah. I attended the Roma conference for 1 day only on Monday, and I had the opportunity to attend all the sessions that the mayor referred to. And I must admit, the mayor did a bang-up job presenting our case and our concerns, and you can see that everybody was engaged around the table. It was unlike previous sessions we attended. This was very positive. At one point, I just want to touch on so that our residents are aware of the inspection facility. They're going to take it only to the EA stage and park it. That's important to realize. So they're not going to move any further. They emphasize that point. So there will be documents coming forward for comments on it. We'll comment on it, but it's important to realize that they're not going to move beyond the EA stage on that. With respect to the, my particular takeaway from the Roma conference was 2 areas. First area is the gas service. The mayor sent me an email Sunday night saying that he's aware of an announcement that the province is going to expand opportunities to provide expanded service in rural agricultural areas, and I spoke also to the Enbridge people there, and also spoke to the Ontario Energy Board person there, and they all are fully aware of it. And I also been talking to our CAO, and he's been actively pursuing Enbridge as well. So, I'd like to give our CEO the opportunity just to talk about where he is at with respect to that process.
Sure. The stage that we're at, when I spoke with Enbridge, the way they explained it to me was the first step will be for municipalities to basically express an interest and notify the province that they're interested in expanding gas into certain areas. So, and then what they'll do, then there's a whole process that kicks into place when that gets started. What happens then is they do an evaluation on what the costs of the expansion would be and the number of properties serviced, so that kind of thing, so that they could do their economic analysis and see where they can best invest the money that they have allocated to the project, and what legislation needs to be put in place to facilitate that. So our first step that we're going to have to do basically is express an interest. Enbridge, in our contact with them has initiated that. So something will be coming to you as council here in the near future to formally endorse that support. The process that we're in right now, or stage we're in right now, is to get some mapping from them to find out exactly where gas services are and are not within the municipality, so that we can specifically say we'd like to extend services in Puslinch in these specific locations. And then once we have that information, we'll incorporate that into the expression of interest, and then that will then be submitted to the province and through Enbridge.
Great, thank you. The second takeaway for me was the improved broadband service. As you're all aware, the SWIFT undertaking, Puslinch got nothing out of it. We've got some residents who've emailed me, who've emailed the chair of our committee, basically expressing their frustration. But the good news is that the Premier Ford had announced $150 million availability for improving broadband and cell phone service. So it appears that we can tap into it. In between these delegations we went to, I had the opportunity to get into one presentation, and the Director of Broadband and Digital Strategy Brands for Infrastructure Ontario was speaking, and he said basically that they want to pick up and improve the services where it's needed. The caveat that it shouldn't be a caveat, but they said that it's important that municipalities partner with the private sector with respect to this. The rules aren't out yet, but I think it's important that we start getting on this and understand the rules. Now, the big concern for me was the CRTC criteria. You can't apply for the CRTC funding because the entire Canada is broken up into 25 square kilometer hexagons. If there's one service provider within a hexagon that could provide you 50/10, then you're ineligible. So if you take a look at the map on the website, all of Southern Ontario is in that boat. So I asked that question, and he didn't say that they will follow it, but he said that they basically want to provide service where it's necessary. So I think we have an opportunity there. I've spoken to our chair of the committee, and we have a meeting with our CAO, and we plan to see what we can do. Perhaps we have to go to the province and understand the rules ahead of the game and start seriously partnering with internet service providers. So on one hand, we struck out with SWIFT. On the other hand, looks like we got another avenue here. So it's very good news. Okay. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey?
It was much detailed. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed the conference. There was a lot of engagement. There was a lot of people there. I can see how it's such a great way to network. I got to meet a lot of our county, councillors, and what I kind of wrote down right away is I was really impressed with how the delegations went. I was expecting a lot more one-way communication, and there was a lot more back and forth, and they seemed really receptive to what we were saying, so that was encouraging to me. And I went to a couple. One that was really interesting was the virtual healthcare luncheon that we went to. I thought that was a really interesting topic, and just to kind of keep in the back of our minds for future. And the other one was about the expanding housing options. So just, trying to open our minds to different options that could be available coming up. So those are a few takeaway ones.
Councillor Balmer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I've heard, I repeat a few words we've heard already, was the engagement and conversations that took place in the delegations with the ministries. Certainly it was a good sign, I think, that they were engaged. Each one of them, there was back and forth conversation. One of them even pushed the person away from the door when time was up so that that they could have further conversations. I've only seen that once in all the time I've been here. There was only once before that ever happened, where the minister let us go overtime, or wanted to go overtime to get more details. So that was a good sign. If I were to talk about my specific other takeaways or things that I learned that day, there was an interesting announcement regarding renewed RED funding, the Rural Economic Development Funding, and they mentioned streetscaping, which brought to mind sidewalks in Aberfoyle to help make Aberfoyle more walkable. I don't know if these would qualify under streetscaping in the new RED application that's just, I guess, was opened up this week. They also mentioned that there'd be some new RED funding available for municipalities to find further efficiencies. And I don't know if we've been talking about purchasing some software to help with asset management or changing from Keystone. I don't know if those type of things would qualify for those efficiencies. On a similar note, they mentioned as well that all 22 of the joint grant applications that were applied for under the previous round of funding were successful. So I just want to check with I believe that would include the one that we made with the county was a joint, the IT efficiency study. Would that qualify? Be one of the 22 perhaps?
So yes, the first intake of the modernization
Yes.
fund for the application-based component. Yes, I just heard at a meeting earlier today that we were successful.
Oh, excellent. So we were one of those 22. That's great. And I heard through a little bird told me that our CFO, our Chief Financial Officer, was largely responsible for that idea in the first place to pull the county municipalities together on that. So thank you very much. Yes, I also attended the workshop on various forms of home ownership. They talked about the differences between life lease, land lease, and co-ownership, or what's often referred to as co-housing. And in each case, they talked about how this is a way for different ways to make housing in places where you've got a rising market. These are forms of ownership that allow people to get into some more affordable housing, and in some ways, some cases actually allow people to stay in their community rather than having to leave their community. It was interesting, the woman who was giving the presentation on co-housing had lots of stories about, trying to find a home for her father, and that's what led her to actually start a business establishing co-housing setups so that seniors can stay in their communities. So I might reach out to her in the future and to learn more, but it was a very powerful, energetic, and entertaining presentation. I think that's all I've got right now, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Goyda.
Yes, thank you. I experienced a lot of the same similar workshops and experiences as everyone else, so I won't repeat those things, but I would just like to say that during those delegations, I was really, it can be intimidating sitting in front of those panels of people, and I was really proud that our entire council was there at all of those delegations, and I was really, I think it really helped a lot that our MPP Ted Arnott was with us in all those delegations and spoke very supportingly of all of the things. And I especially think, Mr. Mayor, that you did an outstanding job speaking from the heart, I think, and I think that was recognized, and there was a lot of dialogue back and forth both ways, and I think that was that wasn't what I was expecting to see, and so I think that is quite encouraging. So great job on that. I attended many of the same workshops, so I won't reiterate on that, but the one other presentation that I thought was very interesting was the keynote speaker on Sunday night, which was Terry O'Reilly, is that correct? And he spoke about the power of storytelling and the value of that mostly in marketing and promoting yourself, but how that is applicable to municipalities as well. And he made a little point in there that as these stories come out, he makes note of them and kind of files them away and brings them out when it's appropriate. And so I thought that was a really great idea, and I've actually started doing that. And the very first little note that I put was actually a story of Councillor Balmer during one of our delegations, which was very comical. So I thought that was, for myself anyway, maybe more personally than anything, a valuable experience. And I just thought overall it was a really great conference.
Thank you for the kind words from each and every councillor. I truly appreciate it, and it was a proud moment for me each time. And as you know, it was part of my intro to say, this is the entire Puslinch Council here, and it made me proud to have everybody there, and everybody was engaging and adding to the conversation, right? And I was so intimidated as I told the story about my first delegation last year, but I realized that they're just people across the table from me. just like we're people. So that's why we try to get them laughing, and it just went so well. So we'll continue to build on that, on those relationships. And one thing I want to ask, I believe the CAO is going to start instituting a meeting after council meetings. And I'm wondering do we need a resolution for this RED program so that the manager of Public Works, we can look into applying for those grants for those sidewalks in Aberfoyle? Or?
We're in the process right now of reviewing the application criteria, and then we're going to be bringing information back to council saying, here's the criteria and here's the projects that you've got budgeted for, or projects that you expressed interest in, and these are the ones, the criteria that they would fit. Which one do you want to go forward with? We will be doing that.
Okay, great. Because if there's an opportunity there, that's to
Yep.
find some funding, that's fantastic. So. The only thing I didn't touch on was our delegation with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing. And we were mentioning to them about trying to get some employment lands on the Highway 401 corridor. And we reiterated that it's not our intention to, because there is a surplus in Wellington County of employment lands, our intention is not to rob from Peter to pay Paul. We were hoping for, some designation of employment lands on the 401 in excess of the employment lands already designated in the county. And I would say they were somewhat receptive of that. And hopefully the meetings coming forward with their staff in the next weeks will be positive as well. So, any other further comments or questions? Okay. Any unfinished business? No? Okay. Oh, I skipped right over, I want to go back, talk to our manager of Public Works, and I discussed prior to going into open session, if you have an update for our grader.
Been in discussions with our adjuster. He's identified certain repairs that need to be accomplished. Overall damage wasn't as severe as first thought. He's confident that within a week and a half's time, the machine should be close to being ready to come back and be put back in service. So I consider overall, we're quite lucky that there wasn't considerable damage or to the point where we would have to consider writing it off.
Well, and of course, our primary concern was yourself. I want to make sure, but, you did mention some concerns with the age of the grader, that there was possibility of maybe not being able to find parts and putting us in a situation where we're going to our director and saying, we need $500,000 tomorrow. So she's smiling as well. So.
Good luck.
Yes. Again, it's the type of model that is quite common throughout Southern Ontario. Lots of parts, lots of used parts. There could be a combination, not yet decided, of new and used. So my opinion, judging by the age of the machine, is try to find as many useful used parts as possible. Moving forward, we have other intentions with both graders. So.
All right, thank you. Bylaws. Moved by Councillor Bayless, seconded by Councillor Ballmer, that the following bylaws be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. A, bylaw 2020-007, being a bylaw to establish and define discretionary reserves. B, bylaw 2020-008, being a bylaw to adopt the budget for the Corporation Township of Portland for the year 2020. C, bylaw 2020-009, being a bylaw to establish the rates of remuneration to staff of the Corporation Township of Portland. All in favor? Carried. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Ballmer, that the following bylaw be taken as read 3 times and finally passed in open council. Bylaw 2020-011, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council for the Corporation of the Township of Portland at its meeting held on the 22nd day of January 2020. All in favor? Carried. What time is it? Oh, 7:40? No. Oh, 8. It's a terrible glare on that clock. 7:59. Moved by Councillor Bailey, seconded by Councillor Ballmer, that council hereby adjourns at 7:59 p.m. All in favor? Carried.